To the 2018 Atlanta Kiss Expo. My name is Mark Canny with the Three Sides of the Coin podcast, and I'm so excited to have my good friend, Mr. Bob Kulick. Woohoo! It's right for Bob!
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so great to see you all here today, and so many people from the cruise. What a blast this is today. Mark, thank you so much.
Well, I tell you what, you want to sit down and we'll talk
We'll sit
Kiss.
and we'll chat.
Yes.
Let's talk Kiss.
Let's talk Kiss, our favorite subject. Now, how many people, show of hands, make noise, grunt, kick the floor, were on Kiss Cruise 7? Now, I don't have to tell you, about an hour into the cruise, or hour or two into the cruise, what was the talk of the cruise?
Best thing on it.
The Kulick brothers just majorly destroying the stage. And honestly, one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. So Bob has shared some things on our podcast and privately with me, but here's one thing that Bob can go into that I thought was fascinating. I asked Bob, I'm like, how much did you guys rehearse for that? Because you freaking nailed it. That show was so awesome. I'm like, I'm expecting to go, for the last month, we were practicing every day. Go ahead, Bob, tell him the truth. Tell him what you told me to my face. How much practice did the Kulick brothers do for that incredible show?
Well, I have to preface this by saying that since my brother and I both were the lead guitar players on the songs that we played. Is this better? All right, I'll start over. Since my brother and I were the guitar players that played on the original recordings of these songs are obviously personal to us and something that we know and love. But normally, under normal conditions, a band of people, especially under these conditions where Brent and Todd, our bass player and singer and drummer, are just people that we've worked with in the past from time to time and really hadn't done any playing with them whatsoever. I live in Vegas now. I jammed with them a couple of times. Bruce flew in to Las Vegas and we rehearsed for a day and a half, 1 month before the cruise. Bruce and I got together in Los Angeles and went through the songs for a few hours so I could show him a couple of little nuances and he could bust my chops about a few of his. So that was the extent of it. We got up and did the 10-minute sound check that we did, and then it was cast your fate to the wind, in this case, on a cruise, on a boat. The magic was so obvious that we were so inspired that this is what we got out of it. And I had no idea that it was as great as it was for what you guys were seeing because I was concentrating on my part. But to be able to see this on YouTube and videos, wow. It's really shown me, like I was saying to Mark, that each of us has that opportunity in life where there's an opportunity to be great for whatever it is. Great on a school test, great in your job, great in your relationship, great as a baseball player hitting a home run or winning a Little League game or something like that. This was this band's opportunity to get up there and hit a home run. And I can't tell you how much it means to us that everybody has responded in the way that you've responded. It shows me that if you are great and that you really put the effort out, something special can happen. Just like the other day, the announcement for the next cruise. So we're going to be back, and I couldn't be happier.
Let me tell you, when Bob and Bruce were going to come up when I was on the cruise, I was with my wife, and I've been on all 7 cruises. And I've seen Bob and Bruce play at a lot of conventions over the years. And I said to my wife, I said, Bob and Bruce are going to play some stuff, and then we'll go eat. Needless to say, my wife went to eat by herself because I could not leave watching these guys. It was so cool. One of the things that I want to know is last year's set was so incredible. Are you going to do a completely different set for 2018?
Good question, Mark.
Good question. We haven't discussed it yet. However, we're going to be doing 2 shows this time.
Woo!
So I have a feeling we're going to do some more deep cuts that we haven't done before. There's a few in mind that everybody will obviously figure out. And hopefully we'll have 2 different sets other than wanting to make sure that everybody is going to get to hear what they want to hear. That's the main thing about this, is that this is for you guys. You know, we love these songs, you know, having played on the records and stuff like that. It makes it personal and special. But to be able to play them and see people singing along and crying and jumping up and down and flipping out, you know, hopefully we'll be able to do that again.
Yeah, that really, I tell you what, just as a mega Kiss fan, seeing those songs come alive. Now, how did you go about picking which songs? I mean, because you obviously did stuff from Paul's solo record, and you know, and then through the 80s Kiss catalog. So what was the mindset? I mean, did you pick it exclusively, or did you both kind of go back and forth with who gets to play what? And
well, you know my brother. There is no pick it exclusively with Bruce. We together, you know, went through. We arm wrestled to see which songs, and you know, finally came up with a big list of what we could do. And then once we picked the songs, we ran it by Todd and Brent. And wanted to make sure that Kiss wasn't going to do these songs either, so we did double check to make sure that, even though I know they did Acoustic Hide Your Heart, I felt that the electric was different enough that we could get away with it, which we did. But Bruce and I discussed this, and then we kind of just, a few days before we were done with the last rehearsal, we wrote up a set list. Bruce made a couple of changes. We had a couple of arguments about a couple of the songs, but it worked out perfectly. Everybody got what they wanted, and I felt like, you know what? This is a huge chunk of the Deep Cuts catalog, and I thought everybody was happy, judging by the response. I guess you were.
Another question, I know Paul watched your set. Did you hear anything from Paul after the set was over? Did he say anything?
Well, actually, I didn't see Paul until the next day when I wound up doing his, jamming with him at his personal event that he had. So, and of course, we didn't have a chance to talk about that. We'd already moved on, and we're talking about, me playing, with him on, the one song that I did on the cruise. So, didn't really ever have a conversation about any of it with any of them, other than maybe Eric. Other than that, I didn't really specifically say, so what'd you think of our set there? We really didn't have that conversation. But, of course, we're back. I know that they loved what we did, and that they appreciated that we dotted the I's and crossed the T's to make it as great as it could be. Hopefully we'll do that again. Is this just me, or is the lights just gone?
When you were
I just had a birthday, I gotta be concerned about this.
When you were putting the set together, did you and your brother discuss who would play which leads? Was there any guitar parts that maybe you wanted to play and then kind of let Bruce play, or vice versa? How'd you guys work that out? Because there was a lot of great, if you were there, you saw some incredible guitar playing. Let me tell you, just incredible guitar playing. So did you guys, kind of have any give and take, like I'll let you do this one and you can do that one?
We did, and we specifically eyeballed the Here Comes the Night, which we did with Crazy Nights. So that was the end of the set proper, was the medley of those two together. And at the end of that, it was like swap solos and each of us playing. And to me, that was one of the great moments of it, that people got to see us stand there toe-to-toe playing, swapping leads and all of that. And other than that, though, the songs that Bruce was the lead guitar player on, he played the leads on. And the songs like on Paul's record, or Larger Than Life, or American Man, that stuff, Nowhere to Run, I did the solos on that. So it was compartmentalized to a certain extent, and then there was the let's just play part. And I think this time we'll probably have more of the let's just vamp on this, let's just do that. Again, we try to keep it as concise as possible, just to make sure we got all those songs out, because that's what you guys wanted to hear, and that's more important than just the solos.
I'm hoping for the light.
Thank you.
Any chance of getting all 4 Killers tunes into 2 sets because I think that's stuff that the fans, you guys want to hear those songs, don't you? I know I do. And just getting a taste of Nowhere to Run, you're like, all right, I want the other 3 and I want them now. So, can you say, can we get all 4 songs in between 2 sets?
Maybe I should call my brother on the phone now and see if he can just put the phone up. So Bruce, I'm here with and see what he says. I can't promise anything, but I have a good feeling we'll all be partners in crime, and We might move on, and there's a bunch of songs that I think we could wind up doing, especially with 2 sets.
All right, let's go back in time to the Killers era. You get a call. A certain guitar player, as you know, was on the cover, and
I won't say anything bad, I promise.
I know. But
Bruce, I'm sorry.
But let's go back to that time, because that had to have been kind of awkward for you. Here is Kiss coming off, the Elder, and wanting to kind of change directions a little bit, and they're like, "Hey, we need you." What was going through your mind? What was that time like? Because in all the interviews and stuff, that's a little bit of a gray area in the Kiss world. So Kiss calls you. They're just trying to heavy things up. They call you, and what was your response? Did you ask, like, do you want me to play a certain way? Because we know that in the past it was, kind of stay within these perimeters. Was this just, hey, you know what, Bob? We need Bob to be Bob, and we need Bob now. Did you get any sort of that
Good question. Interestingly enough, I'm not sure everybody knows this, Kiss Killers and Creatures of the Night were both being done essentially at the same time. And as was the process of looking for a guitar player to replace Ace, because that was what was happening at the time. So when I went out to Los Angeles, we started with some of the Kiss Killers stuff. And regarding the stylistic changes that were made on that, they asked me to bring my Floyd Rose guitar, which was a guitar that has this special whammy bar on it that Eddie Van Halen made popular, where I was able to do all of the doohickeys on Partners in Crime, all of that crazy stuff was with that guitar. So that was one of the things that they were loosening up as far as what they wanted to play. I think they realized that with the advent of Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen and some of the new generation of guitar players for that period of time that were coming out, that they wanted to up the game a little bit, of which they did. Vinnie Vincent upped the game for them dramatically. My brother upped the game for them dramatically. Mark St. John, for this short period of time he was there, was a shred guitar player that could play a lot of stuff. So my job at the time was to kind of bridge the gap between the older stuff and play on some of the newer stuff. So for me, Nowhere to Run obviously was the highlight of that period of time, because I thought, it was a really great song. I thought Paul really sang great. We rehearsed it to do on the '89 tour, and it was such a hard song to sing. We never did it. We never did it one time, even though we rehearsed it. But when we did that song on the cruise, it was one of the best responses that we got. So I think that was more of the larger-than-life guitar player, whereas Partners in Crime started to be the newer stuff. And actually, it was that week that we started those recordings that I actually met Vinny for the first time under that guise of that he'd come down to meet Gene and Paul and all of that. And it's so funny because here we are today.
Speaking of that time, because they were looking for a new guitar player, did your second win, was it ever even suggested or asked for you to come back? Or not come back, or to join, or to fit that in? Because obviously, and we're going to go back into the audition day back in '73 and stuff. I'm kind of moving backwards a little bit. But was there a time in the early '80s where your name came up as a serious replacement? And if it did, why didn't you do it?
I think the reality is that it was mentioned many times, but by that time it was mentioned as a joke. So some of the business people at the office would say, so if you did join the band, what would your character be? And I was like, I finally had to come up with something. I was like, you know what? You guys have seen Flash Gordon, the movie? Ming the Merciless. And I thought, it could be Ming the Merciless, somebody with an outfit and a shaved head. But they also realized that because I had been playing with other people, played with Alice Cooper, played with other artists, that it was going to be hard for me all of a sudden to maybe change my name, change my look, try to be somebody else, fit into a mold that was established by somebody else. As much as I would have liked to have done it, they realized, as did I, that really the gig was not ever for me. The gig was always for my brother. And when I finally realized that, I was able to say to them, you know what? You're missing the boat. You should really take my brother Bruce. He's tall, he looks great, he plays like me, you're missing the boat. And they poo-pawed the idea for a long time. And then finally, Paul called me. I was in London working with Meatloaf. Bob, it's Paul. Hey, what's happening? Do you have Bruce's number? Of course. And then Bruce called me 10 minutes ago. He's like, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, I know what's going on. So that kind of started to happen then, where I started to, what about Bruce? Man, you know, it started then.
And we're now going to go back to 1973 because I think that's a lot of stuff that people want to know. Let's go and get as clear as we can. You go to audition for this band, and they liked you a lot.
What's not to like?
Yes. What was your feeling when they start? Now, because you didn't know them before that, correct?
No, I'd never met them.
Yeah, so that's what makes this so intriguing to me as a fan, and I hope you guys feel the same way. Bob auditions, you know, obviously Ace gets the gig and they move on, but he kept your number. You guys, once Kiss started taking off, when did you stay in contact with Paul, like monthly, 6 months? I mean, how did your friendship evolve from just being somebody that auditioned for Kiss, because there was a bunch of other guys who auditioned, but there was something special about you? What do you think Paul saw in you, and how did the relationship between you and Paul blossom?
I think Paul and Gene both realized, due to our conversations at the audition, that my influences and what I was into were exactly what they were into. All the bands that I loved, they loved. So I think that, and the fact that I thought that their choice of Ace was perfect for what they were doing. A really excellent player with a really great image and super personality. And I think they felt that the magic was there with him. And maybe I didn't at the time qualify as much on all of those issues, and so I accepted that. But I think the bottom line was that I became their friends. So I would go to see them play. You know, I would go out to Queens, they're playing, we'll go check it out. And to see the growth of the band, wow, the makeup's looking great. The outfits are looking amazing. The songs are getting better. We became friends, and so they viewed me as somebody who was their equal, because I wasn't in the band. And because I was moving up the ladder myself, they saw me as somebody, this guy's a real musician, and you know, I introduced them to other people. We had a lot in common. We'd go out to eat, we'd go to see bands, we'd wind up at the same shows. So becoming their friend was what made them comfortable to come to me, like for Kiss Alive 2, and say, we need a favor. We need you to be able to do this without blabbing to everybody, guess what I just did? And I respected that because they were and are my friends. And I can say this, that to be able to go out there as I did on the cruise and sit next to Paul, no rehearsal, no nothing, and to just look at each other and to have that, the memory of all of the time we spent together and all of what I know about him and all of what he knows about me that make us friends, even though we hadn't spoken in a while, we're still friends. We're still best friends. The magic is still there. So I'm kind of lucky in that the gig was really for my brother, as I've said, but that I was able to participate in all these different ways, and now to be able to be in this circumstance is kind of fate. It's kind of something that I can't attribute to anything other than destiny. This is what was supposed to happen.
Well, you kind of answered a question you just answered something that I was going to go into next. So now you're hanging out with them, you're friends, you've seen some success, you've been touring, and then you get a call to play on Kiss Alive 2. Was there, at that time, was there any, like, you know, he's threatening to leave, or we may need you, or was it, because why did they need you at that time? What do you know?
My understanding of the circumstance was that there was a deadline on this record, and that whatever was going on between Ace and Paul and Gene, I guess, had reached that point where they wanted to make a point to him that he was replaceable. This is my impression of what I got from what it was. You know, bearing in mind that who wouldn't jump at the opportunity? So we'd like you to come down and play on a few of our songs for the record. I don't know. No, I was like, well, sure, when do you need me? What's happening? So that was easy. But, you know, the reality, I think, is that they knew that this would send a message, which it did. And even though it didn't affect the outcome, you know, I was cool with it based upon the fact that I got to play on these songs and felt that I did a really good job, and that, you know, the friendship was cemented further by doing them the favor. We all have to remember, at the time, Eric Clapton played on a Beatles record. Everybody thought it was George Harrison. It was Eric Clapton. So people guesting on other people's records was not unheard of. In this situation, obviously, because it was a real band with makeup and the whole thing, people found out pretty readily that it was Eric Clapton that played on While My Guitar Gently Weeps, whereas people didn't find out that I played on those songs until years and years and years later.
Well, that's something too, because I think all of us here in the audience and myself as a fan, that would have crushed me that I'm playing on this, you know, multi-million-dollar seller and your name's not even on it. Did that bother you?
I never thought of it.
Really?
What I thought to myself, honestly, was that I had proved the point to myself and to the band. Now you know what Kiss would sound like with Bob Kulick on guitar. That was enough.
Wow, that's a great answer. Because I tell you, you know, side 4 of Kiss I'll Have To is one of my favorite sides of music. I mean, that just crushes all the way around. And, you know, a lot of thanks to you for that. That is just a great, you know, great side of music. Fast forward here. This is a little selfish on my end. How was it like working with Lemmy and Motorhead? Because I'm a big Motorhead fan.
It was an exhilarating experience to work with somebody like Lemmy, may he rest in peace, a dear friend, somebody who always was there for the music, never cared about the money, never cared about the money. All the times that we worked together in any of the projects that we worked on, never asked or cared about the money, only ever cared about the music. There were very few people. I've been around this business, as you all know, and the money is part of it. That's what is a huge part of it, but not to Lemmy. Working with those guys was very challenging. Lemmy himself was extremely opinionated, like me, and the rest of the guys.
You don't say.
And I got it from Gene and Paul. No, I'm just kidding. That was always me. But the reality was that we made some great music together. The theme for Triple H was one of the greatest things I ever worked on in my life. That Lemmy sang that, "It's time to play the game," that gave everybody chills. And to see, I actually went out and played with them when they did WrestleMania twice. They played the theme, and I was actually, you know, playing behind the curtain to make it sound like what it sounded like, because I was the guitar player that played on the actual recording. And it was so exhilarating to be in a position to play something that you knew was great, that these guys were playing and you were playing along with them. And some of the other stuff that I did with Lemmy, God Save the Queen, for instance, which I had suggested to him. We're looking for a cover song. You singing God Save the Queen would be incredible, you know. God Save the Queen. You know? Next thing I know, it's a video and all of that. He was my lucky charm in a lot of ways. I really loved being around him. He would always talk to me wherever we were. When I first met him playing those Monsters of Rock shows, when I worked with Meatloaf, he would be on the bill. You know, so it was Iron Maiden or Whitesnake or Deep Purple or somebody, and then you worked your way down, Meatloaf, Motorhead, Mountain, whoever. And we would hang out at those events. He even got up and jammed with us once on stage with Meatloaf. And so, you know, we were really good friends. But I can say this about him, like Gene and Paul, these people live for the music. He lived for rock and roll. He was totally that. everything about him was that.
Yeah, again, that was my selfish question because, again, I think nobody exuded rock quite like Lemmy did. He, just an incredible influence.
I mean, even unto the most people would be like, I'm going to go change into my stage clothes to go on. Lemmy, you going to change? I'm in my stage clothes.
I remember going to see Motorhead and he's out in the casino playing, you're going on in 10 minutes, hold on.
Exactly.
Take us up to modern day. What's Bob Kulick up to today?
Bob Kulick's been pretty busy lately.
I love the third person, by the way.
Well, I'm going to be appearing with Gene in Las Vegas when he does the opening for his CD, for the Vault thing. So he's going to have, a big celebration of that and a party for that. So I'm going to go down there like my brother did and Ace did in Los Angeles. So I'm going to do that. And happy that I have 4 songs on that record written back in the day. So that's a very exciting thing for me. Obviously, now that the Kiss Cruise is going to happen again this year, thank you. And you guys should thank yourselves because I think the incredibly positive response that we received, that they know about, I think helped everybody realize that, you know what, this family is a great family. Kiss and the Kulicks, and to add Ace to the bill, I think is what a great show that's going to be. Hopefully we'll get to, mix this up a little bit, and maybe we'll see if Ace can play with us or we can play with. We'll see what happens, but that's going to be great.
Let's face it, there's a lot of anticipation for Kiss Cruise 8, and I know the sale goes on. I think mine's the second week of February, so it's going to be here before you know it. That was one thing I was going to ask you. How much do you know? It sounds like you don't. It sounds like you know as much as we all do. You're up there, you're going to play. We don't know what's going to happen. I think it would be nothing short of magical if you could get Ace to play and maybe, just a 3-way jam with you guys. I think it would be fantastic. And I know you're up for it. I know you're up for it.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. So hopefully over the next few months, I'd like to do some more stuff with Paul like I did last year. And, obviously, maybe we'd get up with Ace's band, or he'd get up with us. We'll see what fate has in store, but I think that would be great for the fans, and we would totally enjoy it. So I think this opens up a lot of possibilities for what could happen. But in answer to your previous question, I'm still promoting my first record, Skeletons in the Closet, which, thank you very much, everybody brought today. And I should have brought more of them, Jesus.
Well, how fast they sold is just a testament, Bob, to, how much we love you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was my first record ever. I played with everybody on the planet, and then finally it's like, okay, so finally now you're going to put out a solo record. My solo record with 23 guest artists.
You know what? What is your favorite session? I mean, that you did for somebody else. What one stands out? Because the one I love All American Man. That's just my personal. That solo is so sweet.
I don't think that it would be fair, nor could I live with seeing the video of me saying only one song. So I'll reference 3 songs.
Yeah, give me a few. That'd be awesome.
Working with Kiss in the studio with the legendary Eddie Kramer, who was the engineer for the Beatles and for Jimi Hendrix and for Led Zeppelin. He's who recorded my guitars on Kiss Alive 2 on Larger Than Life. And I think that was the last song that I played. And by that time, it had gotten to, I'm really into this now. So that was one of the greatest sessions, the Larger Than Life session. Gene introducing me to Diana Ross and being there when we did the solos on Why Do Fools Fall in Love and Mirror Mirror was magical. I'm pinching myself. So here's Gene Simmons standing here. Here's Diana Ross standing here. How are we doing? Everybody's happy. It's just, it was like, all of a sudden, what are you doing today? I guess I'm playing with Diana Ross, I guess. That was a magical session because it all happened, the phone call, getting to the studio, same day. Did it all the same day, done. And then I guess the third one that I'll mention that was to me a solo that you all mention to me all the time that I guess really was special was The Idol with Blackie Lawless, The Wasp, record that I did. That song, it gives me chills to hear that, just what I played on that. And I remember him saying to me, Because he tried out a few guitar players on this, and I remember him saying to me, "You are the perfect guy for this. Where you play in the pocket of this song kills me." You know, and you know, I wound up playing on a few of the other songs, but that song. And I think the reason people respond to that is because it was really heartfelt. When I hear it now, it's not like, I could have done better, I could have done something different. I accept it for what it is. So those 3 solos, I would say.
Okay, I'm going to go the opposite end. What sessions did you do that you were at the... You put it this way. Have you ever done a session you got done, you're like, I could have done better? Anything stand out for you?
And it's always been the case that I always thought about certain things as a producer. Oh, that could have been a little better, or maybe I should have worked on these lyrics with the artist a little more, or whatever it was. But you know, the bad sessions that I had that didn't work out, I buried them so deep in my mind, and it was never anybody that was famous in the way that we're talking about now. So there were some sessions where I was like, you know, I really feel that I'm the wrong guitar player for what you're looking for from what you're telling me, so maybe we should stop. That happened a few times. As with any job, you know, there were times where it just didn't work. But there was nothing that I ever felt like, oh, when I hear it, I cringe. I always feel like that was you expressing yourself at that time, and maybe you'd express yourself differently now, but that's no reason to think that was bad.
As a guitar player, yourself, obviously, what era do you think is where the best players come out? Because you have to be impressed by the super speedy guys now, but, you know, go back. When do you think, because I always have this thing, I love the tone of so many of the 70s guys, and I think tone is something that doesn't get enough respect these days. Because back in the day, you could have had Blackmore just hit an A chord and you knew it was Blackmore. You could, you know what I mean? Eric Clapton did an A, you just knew it was Clapton. What, do you think that's missing now in modern music? Or as a guitar player, let's get a little geeky here, who do you think has the best tone now? Who's somebody that you hear and you're like, cracks you in the ribs and you love it?
Well, if you want to be specific about this, which you are being, Mark, thank you, and for those guitar players in there or people who are savvy in this area, stylistically speaking, the guitar players of my generation, those who I copied, those who I saw in person play, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, George Harrison, Jimmy Page. To me and my brother and to Paul and everybody like that, these were our gods. We would go to the shows and see these people play. We were like drooling. I stood at the front of the stage and Jeff Beck sweated on me. He was playing right above me. To see that and to feel that the first time Led Zeppelin played New York. Paul was there, I was there, we were all there. You know, a whole lot of love for them to dish that out. We were on the floor. How else could you react? Eric Clapton, to see the first Cream concerts. It was an out-of-body experience to see somebody who looked like nobody else on the planet, wearing little fringes, fringe pants, fringe jacket, with that special guitar, painted guitar that was Todd Rundgren's and George Harrison's, and then his. To see that vision, his tone, to be specific now, those Marshall amps in the day did not have a preamp stage for distortion. So the tonality was created by the guitar and the pickups. They used to crank those amps up flat out. So it was loud, loud, loud. And that's where all the sustain and what we all thought was distortion came from. Really wasn't distortion, it was just volume. As things changed when Eddie Van Halen, as I was saying earlier, and Randy Rhoads, those nuances, there were preamp Marshalls. And so the sound was able to be doctored and distorted. Less the sound of the person's fingers and guitar, and more the sound of the amp making a new texture for it, a distorted texture, something that we all then became like, oh wow, that's what they all sound like. The nuance was getting lost a little bit. So that now, when you talk about tonality, there are tons of amazing guitar players. I had the pleasure of working with Tom Morello a couple of years ago on the Randy Rhoads tribute that I did. Well, here's a guy who you know, he plays guitar, but what comes out of the amp is like he's got pedals and stuff going so that it's like there's a percussion session playing in the middle of him playing his solo, and that's part of what he does. You know, all of the sound effects and all of that. Here's somebody who basically, like I said to him, I said, you know, you're playing on this Randy Rhoads record is so incredible. He was like, well, why do you think that's so? And I'm like, because nobody else would play that or could play that. So I gravitate towards guitar players whose personality is that. Nobody else could play that. Nobody else would do that. Like I said to Steve Vai when I played with Steve at Lemmy's birthday party, I'm no longer jealous of you, Steve. Why, Bob? Because I could never even think of the stuff you play, let alone be jealous of playing it.
That's awesome. While we're on super geeky guitar stuff, tell us about your rig. What are you playing out of? What effects do you like to use? You go back to any certain guitars? Were you like a big Les Paul guy or Strats?
Back in the day, I was a Les Paul guy, and you know, but had some Strats as well. You know, I kind of went through that Les Paul Strat thing, which Jeff Beck did. He played a Strat, he played a Les Paul. He had both in his repertoire, so that worked really great. Now I am a happy ESP endorser. The guitars that I play on cruise and all the other stuff somebody have seen recently of me doing some live shows would be the ESPs, the Vipers, the Eclipses. Excellent guitars. I like the old classics. I'm an idiot because I sold all my old guitars. Like Paul at one point, he had a bunch of old guitars and he was like, I'm just going to get rid of them. And we didn't think anything of it at the time, and now we're kicking each other, you know, like, Jesus, why did you sell that Flying V? Like, you sold your Les Paul. You know, so, but here's the deal, I could always buy another one if I wanted to.
That's awesome. Hey, a question I have, and I think this would be cool, and I think a lot of you guys here would appreciate this too. Is there any chance, now that you guys know you know, next November you're going to be sailing, that you guys may do a little tour prior, maybe, you know, hitting some of the bigger cities, doing some clubs prior, because let's face it, you know, you only get 3,000 people on the boat. There's way more than 3,000 people that want to see you and your brother
tour.
tour.
Except for the 100,000 people that saw the video.
So, well, that's my point. I mean, and I know you guys would all want to see that too. What is the chance? And if you scream out, maybe they'll do it. What is the chance of once you guys start rehearsing, we start hitting Atlanta and Cleveland and Detroit and Chicago and...
I'll tell you what, I'll show Bruce this part of the video, but you need to cheer louder now. So do you want to see Bruce and I play?
I think that is a resounding yes, and let me tell you, I think that's really doable, man. You guys could do just backline, you know what that is. Backline is when you already have your stuff there, you just show up. Backline, that's kind of why I was asking about the equipment too. I want to see what you were going to say. You guys could get a backline tour.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you Bruce's phone number. We'll take out your phones. No, Bruce and I would love to do this. It's a scheduling issue. We would like, obviously, to have Todd Kearns and Brent Fitz, who are amazing human beings, amazing artists, incredible musicians, and also, like every one of you, huge Kiss fans. And that's how that worked, was that Bruce and I were able to play with two people who were no less than us, who felt no less than we did about it, go out there and hit a home run for these fans. I love those guys, and I know everybody would like to do this. I'm hoping that putting it out there will make it happen, because I believe sometimes that that's the way things do happen. Put it out there and make it so. I need your help, but I think we can make that happen.
Guys, get out there, support all the KISS pages and fan sites and podcasts, and let everybody know that you want to see the Kulick brothers in your town, because everybody here is from all around the country, man.
All around the world.
All around the world. Let's get that vibe going. Guys, we got to wrap it up right now. Mr. Bob Kulick, thank you.